Hello. So this is our group project on free body diagrams. You will either do this in the Zoom session, and that will count as your participation in the group for that 5 points of the project, or you will do this on the Canvas groups, and I'll show you where they are at the end, and that's where you'll do your discussion, decide on a story. So here's an example. You're going to get all these free body diagrams. The nervous batter saw the ball coming over the plate, assuming no air resistance meant only gravity was acting upon the ball presently, so that to concentrate to time the swing just right. Here it comes. It feels like it's accelerating towards me, but that's just my nerves. There's no arrow in the X direction. So notice I told a story and I explained the free body diagram that I used. This is the free body diagram. I only had one force, gravity. I talked about it wasn't accelerating in the X because I don't have any arrows in the X direction. So even though it was thrown at me, it's not accelerating at me. It's only accelerating down. Okay. I said that we did not have air resistance. So I don't have an air resistance force on this one. So you're going to explain the story and explain the free body diagram. And then the second person would tell the next part of the story. Crack. I did it. I made contact with the ball. I'm applying a force to it in this instant. I am pushing the ball and accelerating it in the horizontal direction. Will it be enough? Will it be in the right direction? Gravity is still acting down on it. Who will win this race? So is gravity going to pull the ball down so that a player can get it before I get to the base? I do not know. This one is not as good as the first one because there are two free body diagrams that it could represent. I talked about gravity and I talked about the applied force in the right direction. I did not talk about if I was ignoring air resistance or not. So even though the first guy talked about it, you have to talk about every arrow. And if one's longer, make sure you explain that. Okay, so I'm accelerating to the right because my arrow to the right is longer. Okay. So make sure you explain every single force. Now, in this one, it's not going to help the story because it was already talked about in the first one. So for this particular thing, you could use parentheses. We continue to ignore air resistance, which would also be called drag in this case, or the force of friction from the air. That is the setup that you are going to want to do with your group members, regardless of how many members you have. Okay. You can mirror these or rotate them or do some other thing to them, but you can't change the length of the arrow, but you could change the direction by rotating it around. You do have a little bit of play there. When you see your story, if you're in present mode, you're not going to see the available free body ones. So make sure that you exit out of the present mode so that you can see your free body diagram. If you decide to do this one and you're the first person, then take it over there. And if it's a little big, just resize it so it fits into the object. It's just big over here so you can make sure you're getting the right one. Here's where you put your explanation. Remember, tell the story, and then also make sure incorporating in that is an explanation of every arrow and your name over here. So a third of your grade about is going to be on your row. Do not change anybody else's row. Okay, a third about is going to be on you working together. So you can work together on the discussion post, or you can come to the Zoom and then you can work together in the Zoom, and then you won't have to go and post anything in the discussion post area. There is a third option if you are actually watching the video. If you are not in the Zoom, but do get assigned a group, the first person in the group, if you get over here, since we're all using that same document, if you put your part of the story in for first, then everybody else has to follow along. So when your row is done, then you can immediately file, make a copy, and change it to your own document so that you're submitting it. So again, you have to submit your row for points. You need to show some way that you contributed to the discussion, which was those 3 ways that I just talked about. And then after you've made a copy, file, make a copy, entire presentation. So don't worry if the other slides are blank. Don't touch the other slides. Don't touch other people's rows, but download the entire presentation to your system before writing the reflection, because the reflection is individual. Put your name, your group number, and your reflection is on the Canvas assignment. So again, make sure you make a copy first. Once you've completed this slide, file, download as PDF. So you do not have to wait if some of your other story people have not finished their portion of the story. Just make sure your portion is finished before you file, make a copy. Make sure you use one of the methods for showing me that you worked as a team. The two main methods for that are to come to the Zoom to get automatically checked off or to post in the discussion area. And so let's go make sure you know where your groups are. When you are here, you're going to go into your physics course. And that same place where you see your to-do list and your feedback, that is also where your group is going to show up. So you are going to go ahead and list over there. That is where your group is. You click on your group, it'll say something like Storytime Group 1. You're automatically placed in that group. That's where you're going to post in the discussion what your story is going to be about. And do remember to always check the feedback that's over here, because that'll give you some pointers on fixing your work. Okay, so that is the main gist for where that is. How are you submitting the assignment? It is not going to be due on the same day that I set up groups, so it's not going to show up in your to-do list, and it might be hard to find on the calendar. So honestly, I rely on using the modules. Where will it be on the modules? It'll either be on this lesson that we're on, so down here in that lesson, or it could be in the review area at the bottom of module 3. So again, make sure you have your own individual reflection. How do I know what your reflection is? When you read it on the assignment here, then it will tell you what your reflection should be. Okay, so teamwork, your portion of the story, your reflection. Yes, you're going to submit individually, so you don't have to wait till the whole story's done. So you don't have to worry about it. It's going to cause you to be late. If you have any questions, always email.